how do you manage a virtual team? In fact, that question came to my attention a lot this week in a lot of different situations. Hey, Daphne, welcome to the show. Feel free to join in with any questions or any answers. So the question that I received, how do you manage a virtual team? Since the word manage was used here, I'm going to start out with processes, because I believe that a leader leads people and a manager manages processes. So I'm going to answer you from that perspective. The processes and the technology that we use to manage a virtual team. We use, so the key is communication. There have been studies done that indicate the number one success or failure factor in a virtual team is communication. In fact, the specific term was a geographically distributed team. Same difference for logistical purposes. So we have communication channels set up, and we have protocols regarding expectations for communication. Which channels should be used for what types of things? Which channels we have mutually agreed upon freedom, saying, use whatever channel you want for this type of thing, or whatever makes sense to you works for me, or for that type of thing, only text me. For this type of thing, only call me, etc. Be deliberate with the channels that you agree on with your team and the protocols for using those channels. And if somebody goes off script, then you can decide how to deal with it, but don't just let it pass. I remember one of the greatest courses I ever took was called Behavior Modification. And it was back when I was getting my education degree. And my professor, Dr. Madsen, for all Florida State fans out there, my professor said, a rule isn't a rule until it's been broken and publicly acknowledged as being broken and addressed. So if somebody goes off script, address it. And design, in my opinion, mutually what needs to be done. And you can dig deeply if you need to. You can do onion peeling if you need to, in order to really get to the bottom of why somebody went off script and why somebody thought it was okay to do that. And maybe that was fine, and maybe it wasn't. But don't just let it pass. Address it. That's how everybody knows that these protocols matter. They provide a channel for workability. Other tools and processes that we use to manage a virtual team, we are so much fans of Asana. It is my favorite workflow tool. In essence, it's an online to-do list for teams. There are a lot of online to-do lists. I mean, hey, you can open up a spreadsheet in Excel online, or send yourself an email, or put it on your calendar. There are tons of online to-do lists, but how many are really for teams? Asana is my favorite one. Rike is my second favorite one. They have pretty much the same functionality, except Asana has flying unicorns. Can't beat that. And so everything that's action-based goes in Asana. And we have processes in place to manage the Asana space. For example, a recurring task that recurs every X number of days, X depending on what makes sense for the situation, saying curate the Asana space. And in that, I have some subtasks that form a checklist. For example, make sure every task has a due date, make sure every task is assigned to someone, make sure every task has a section, because I like having sections. It helps me get to what I need to do faster, so I don't have to wade through stuff that's not relevant to me. And make sure every task's due date is in the future. If a due date is in the past, that doesn't make any sense, does it? A due date, as I define it, is a promise, a time-bound promise. It's a time-bound commitment. I don't know about you, but I can't promise to do anything in the past. So if a task has a due date in the past, that means either someone did it and didn't check it off, which isn't okay, because you're working in a team environment. Effective teams communicate. So if you did it but didn't check it off, that's not okay. So address it. You don't have to toss a grenade, but address it. Or it means that somebody didn't do it and didn't make a new promise. Part of how I define integrity the kind of integrity that I think about as structural integrity, not integrity like honesty, but structural integrity, workability. Part of how I define workability is that if in the moment I realize, oh bleep, I'm not going to be able to make this time-bound commitment, right? Whether it was something in my control or outside of my control or whatever it is, in the moment in which I realize I'm not going to keep this promise by that date and time, make a new promise. Communicate that. I need to change the due date. This happened, or I didn't get this, or I asked for this 17 times and sent over a carrier pigeon, a text, and a hitman, but I still didn't get the information I needed to keep my promise. Okay, I get that. We make a new promise. And what do we need to put in place so we can have success? Just letting things slide is not how I manage a virtual team. So we create the space, we create the promises, we create the definitions, distinguishing deadline as a time-bound promise, for example, or a time-bound commitment. And then I create a task, a recurring task to manage that space. And so in a nutshell, those are the processes and technologies that I use to manage a virtual team. There's one more thing, and that is shared infrastructure. So we have communication channels and we have workflow. We have to have a place to mutually access files that we are both authorized to have access to. So whatever space that is, we all have to have access to this space. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work otherwise. We have to have a centralized, secure, in my line of work, space to be able to manage that. What I'm not going to address right now is leading a virtual team, because the question was about managing one. Leading a virtual team would have to do more with people, right? Like inspiration and corporate organizational culture, having difficult conversations, using behavioral techniques that really make sense for the audience to shape human behavior. But those are the techniques that I use to manage a virtual team.